Have you ever wondered why trading feels so hard? Why you can know exactly what to do, yet somehow find yourself doing the exact opposite? Why you hesitate when you should enter, chase when you should wait, or refuse to accept a loss? Or give back weeks of profits in a single emotional afternoon? Maybe the market isn't simply exposing your strategy. Maybe it's exposing your heart. The Bible is filled with ordinary people whose greatest battles weren't against armies or circumstances. They were against fear, pride, impatience, doubt, and temptation. Those same enemies show up every morning when the opening bell rings. Well, today I want to show you 10 biblical stories that completely changed how I think about trading and why they may completely change the way you approach the market. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10:10. The story begins in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve lived in perfect abundance. Every need was met. Every tree but one had been freely given to them. Yet the serpent whispered a simple lie. You're missing something. He convinced them that what God had already provided wasn't enough. So they reached for one thing they weren't supposed to have, believing immediate gratification would produce a better future. In a single decision, they traded peace for anxiety, abundance for scarcity, and trust for regret. Every trader knows that feeling. You have a perfectly good trading plan, but one giant green candle convinces you you're missing out. So you chase, you over-leverage, you ignore your rules because the market appears to be offering something better than discipline. Well, the market rarely destroys traders through ignorance. It destroys them through temptation. The first bad trade in history wasn't made on Wall Street. It was made in a garden when immediate gratification became more attractive than long-term obedience. That same temptation appears again in the life of Job. In a matter of days, Job lost his wealth, his children, his health, and nearly everyone who believed in him. His friends insisted he must have done something wrong. His wife told him to curse God and die. Yet Job refused to allow the temporary pain to define eternal truth. His losses were real, but they weren't proof that God had abandoned him. Through unimaginable suffering, Job learned that faithfulness is often tested long before restoration arrives. How many traders have walked away after one devastating drawdown? How many brilliant traders quit because they confused temporary losses with permanent failure? A losing streak doesn't automatically mean your strategy is broken. Sometimes it reveals whether your confidence is rooted in profits or principles. The devil would love for every red day to convince you that you're incapable, untalented, or forgotten. But resilience is often forged during seasons when nothing seems to be working. Then we meet David, a teenage shepherd standing before Goliath while seasoned soldiers trembled in fear. Everyone else saw an impossible giant, but David saw an opportunity to trust what God had already prepared him for. The lion and the bear had trained him for this moment. He didn't borrow Saul's armor because he understood something profound. Confidence comes from preparation, not appearances. One stone, guided by unwavering faith, accomplished what an entire army believed was impossible. Every trader eventually faces a Goliath. Maybe it's the fear of pulling the trigger after several losses. Maybe it's the pressure of needing to pay bills. Maybe it's the memory of a blown account. Fear tells you the giant is bigger than your preparation. Faith reminds you that every journal entry, every chart review, and every disciplined trade has been preparing you for this moment. Confidence doesn't appear before the trade. It grows because you've done the work before the trade. That preparation is beautifully illustrated in Gideon's story as well. You see, God called Gideon to deliver Israel, but instead of giving him a larger army, he kept shrinking it from 32,000 soldiers to just 300. Well, human logic screamed that fewer resources meant certain defeat. But God wanted Gideon to understand that victory wouldn't come from numbers, but from dependence. Sometimes God intentionally removes what we think we need, so we'll discover what we actually need. How often have you said, if only I had a bigger account, I'd finally be profitable? Well, trading psychology teaches the opposite. A trader who cannot faithfully manage $1,000 will likely mismanage $100,000. Bigger accounts don't eliminate emotional problems, they magnify them. God develops stewardship before abundance because character must become larger than capital. Joseph understood what it meant to wait. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and forgotten in prison, his dreams appeared dead. Yet every setback quietly prepared him for extraordinary responsibility. Years later, Joseph would manage the food supply of an empire and save entire nations from famine. The palace was built long before he ever entered it. It was built inside the prison. Every trader wants overnight success, but almost nobody wants overnight preparation. We crave profitable months while resisting the quiet work of reviewing losing trades, strengthening discipline, and refining emotional control. Delayed gratification isn't punishment, it's preparation. The market often rewards the trader who spent years becoming the person capable of handling success. Then we have the Israelites, who provide another unforgettable lesson. God delivered them from slavery through miraculous signs, parted the Red Sea before their eyes, and provided food from heaven. Yet, every inconvenience caused them to complain. Every obstacle tempted them to return to Egypt because the familiar pain of bondage felt safer than the uncertainty of freedom. Their greatest obstacle wasn't the wilderness, it was their mindset. Well, trading feels remarkably similar. One difficult week convinces you to abandon your strategy. One losing month sends you searching for another indicator, another mentor, another shortcut. The wilderness exposes what's already inside us. Trading exposes whether we truly trust our process or whether we're constantly looking backward at comfortable habits that were quietly destroying us. Peter experienced that same internal battle at the Sea of Galilee. At Jesus' invitation, he stepped out of the boat and actually walked on water. But when Peter shifted his attention from Christ to the crashing waves around him, fear overwhelmed faith, and he began to sink. The waves hadn't changed. His focus had. How many trades have you ruined because you stopped trusting your plan halfway through? You entered correctly, your analysis was solid, but then the candle started moving. You stared at every tick, you exited too early. You moved your stop. You chased another position. Markets create noise, but profitable traders learn to keep their attention on the process rather than reacting emotionally to every wave of volatility. Then Jesus entered the wilderness for 40 days, where Satan repeatedly offered him shortcuts: bread without waiting, kingdoms without suffering, glory without obedience. Every temptation was an invitation to bypass God's process in exchange for immediate results. Jesus refused every shortcut because he understood that character is always more valuable than convenience. Well, trading offers those same shortcuts every single day. Double your position, ignore your stop, revenge trade, average down, risk everything on one setup. The devil doesn't need to make you abandon trading. He only needs to convince you to abandon discipline. The fastest path almost always becomes the longest road back. Finally, Jesus tells the parable of the talent. 3 servants received different amounts according to their abilities. Well, 2 servants immediately invested what they had doubled, but the 3rd servant became consumed by fear. Instead of risking failure, he buried his talent in the ground. When the master returned, the tragedy wasn't that the servant lost money. He hadn't lost anything. The tragedy was that fear convinced him to do nothing at all. That story transformed my entire approach to trading because I realized I wasn't just managing an account, I was stewarding a gift. The greatest losses in trading rarely come from bad analysis. They come from buried potential. Fear buries discipline. Fear buries confidence. Fear buries consistency. And when fear becomes your strategy, you stop multiplying what God has entrusted to you. The market becomes less about building wealth and more about avoiding pain. Before we close, I want to say something to the trader who feels exhausted. The one who's blown accounts, broken promises to themselves, and quietly wonders if they're simply not cut out for this. I want you to know something. Your struggle doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Trading is one of the few professions where your fears, insecurities, pride, impatience, and self-doubt are put on display almost every single day. The charts don't create those emotions, but they do reveal them. That's why this journey can feel so overwhelming. You're not just battling the market, you're battling everything the market awakens inside you. He doesn't have to make you quit trading. He only has to keep you trapped in fear. Every time fear convinces you to hesitate on a quality setup, it steals your confidence. Every time anxiety convinces you to abandon your strategy, it steals your discipline. Every time greed convinces you to chase a candle, it steals your patience. Every time shame whispers that you'll never become profitable, it steals your hope. And every time you define yourself by a losing trade, it steals your identity. Fear is never satisfied. It feeds on uncertainty. It grows stronger every time you believe its lies. It wants you isolated because isolated traders don't just lose money, they lose perspective. They begin believing they are their mistakes. They begin believing that one bad trade defines them. They begin believing that because they failed today, they're failures. The beautiful truth of Scripture is that God has never been intimidated by your weakness. Throughout the Bible, He repeatedly chose fearful people, broken people, doubting people, and ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. The common thread wasn't perfection, it was surrender. They stopped trying to carry everything alone and invited God into the journey. Well, that's my invitation to you. Don't just ask God to bless your trades. Invite Him into your trading. Invite Him into your decision making. Invite Him into your waiting. Invite Him into your losses. Invite Him into your victories. Invite Him into your emotions before the market even opens. Because I have discovered that when God becomes your source of peace, the market loses its power to control your emotions. Profit no longer determines your worth. A red day no longer destroys your confidence. A green day no longer inflates your ego. You begin trading from a place of stewardship instead of survival. If that's the kind of trader and the kind of person you want to become, I would love for you to join us inside Trading Psychology for Reparations. We're building a community of traders who believe that mastering the market begins with mastering ourselves. Inside, you'll receive your free daily SPY levels, trading psychology levels, faith-based encourage, trading Bible study guide, and practical tools to help you grow with consistency, wisdom, and purpose. I'd also love to hear from you. Which Bible story validated your trading journey the most? Was it Adam and Eve? Job? David? Joseph? Peter? The parable of the talents? Share your answer in the comments. Your story may be the encouragement another trader needs today. And if this message encouraged you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's struggling in silence. Together, let's stop burying the gifts God has entrusted to us. Let's become faithful stewards of our minds, our emotions, and our resources. And let's discover that the greatest profit God may be producing isn't only in our brokerage accounts, it's in the people we're becoming along the way. You've got this. Peace and blessings, Dr. O.